But we end up so out of alignment that the universe will literally throw us a curveball. The universe will be like, what is you doing? This is not it. It's gonna be too hot. And I'm trying to get better and thinking about everything that's going on in my life recently. I've been thinking a lot about authenticity as a theme and, quite frankly, being in alignment. I think that sometimes we end up out of alignment because we're just going through the motions of what we think we're supposed to do or what just feels normal. But we end up so out of alignment that the universe will literally throw us a curveball. The universe will be like, what is you doing? This is not it. And to be honest with you, I've been thrown so many curveballs in the past few years when it comes to my life and where I'm at and where I'm going. I think what happens is because for a split second, I'll be living really authentically. I'll be stepping into my shoes and doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And it becomes habitual. It becomes a part of my routine. And I don't even really have to think about it like that. But then all of a sudden, something will happen because that's what happens in life. Things throw you off. You get sick, or there's unexpected financial expenses, or whatever the case is. But for me, it throws me so far off of my schedule and my routine that it's so hard for me to reel it back in. And I think that it causes me to veer off course and out of alignment with what I should be doing and where I should be. And I think then I end up making choices on a day to day that are just out of alignment with where my goals are and how I want to authentically live. And I think that's a common theme for anyone who's human. I think if you're human, you probably have that lived experience of I'm in my routine, I know what works for me. But then you veer off course. And I think that that's honestly, it's kind of normal. It's a natural thing to happen. But it's like getting back on course. I'm a firm believer in understanding what your goals are and being in alignment with that on a regular basis, and how the universe will conspire in your favor when you are doing the things that really fill your soul's cup. I feel like when we step out of that, our entire existence kind of shifts. We don't really know what we're doing in those moments. We're really just on autopilot, where we're not intentionally living within the realm of what's authentic for us and aligned with our soul's purpose. I think when you see people online, even as content creators, and you know that things are unaligned, right? They're trying to push something, but it's like you need that connection underneath to understand who they are. Imagine that you're the universe, right? We as consumers are the universe. If there is a product or a company that's message is unaligned with what you're showing us, if they're saying, oh, we're clean and sustainable, but they don't have the proof to back it up, we're not going to support that, right? As a collective, we're going to be like, wait a minute, if I'm somebody who is conscious about that, I'm not going to support it. So I think that ties into how the universe looks at us as individuals, right? The universe is like, wait a minute, you want this from me, but you're doing this, which is so out of alignment from what would actually make sense. I'm not going to give it to you, right? And so that might be attention, it could be financial gains, it could be love, experiences, family, community. I think if we're not doing the things that foster creating an environment where those things make sense, the universe doesn't want to give it to us. And I think that when you see a creator, even like I said, who just seems so out of alignment with what their message is, if you can tell that all they want to do is just make money off of you, I think it becomes really challenging to consistently follow them. I know that's happened to some creators, right? Where their audience realizes you're just trying to make money off of me. Everything you're pushing out is a way to make money off of me. Instead of building that community, that connection, that authenticity, I think that that's so important. Just as humans, right? I think that that's something I've struggled with my entire life, is building community, because maybe I didn't think I deserved one. I didn't think that I deserved a community that really was there for me through and through, right? Even if I couldn't be there for myself, I think the idea of community that I've had my whole life has been I've had it on a pedestal. There's really high value thing, but it's become challenging for me to obtain that because I didn't think I deserved it. So I was living out of alignment with fostering the environment in which my community would find me and live with me or live amongst me or support each other. So I think from that standpoint, the universe was like, girl, you got some work to do before I can give you that community, before you can have access to that. Because even with having BPD, the one thing that I struggle with the most in terms of the guilt that I feel on a day-to-day basis. I need this tea. This is some good tea. But I think the thing that I struggle with the most on a day-to-day basis when it comes to my BPD and guilt around it is project impermanence and how that trickles down to how I manage my relationships. I think a lot of the time when I think about what it looks like to have and sustain a community of relationships, and sustaining that to me looks like consistent interaction with each other, support and following up and being there. And it's not that I can't be there, it's not that I can't support people, it's not that I can't communicate, but sometimes I forget. And I feel so guilty when I forget that people exist. I don't think it's fair to them. And so I think that I've kind of robbed myself of this opportunity of having a lot of deeply rooted friendships because I'm thinking to myself and subconsciously that I don't deserve that because I can't maintain friendships in the way that everyone else can. And I think that's part of the reason why I haven't found my community, and it's been really challenging for me because I feel really, really bad about it. I'll remember to message someone or to call them back at 10:30 at night before I'm going to bed, and it's like, well, I know this doesn't make sense. I can't call them now. It's not like we're in our early 20s and we don't have responsibilities. We have kids, we have families, we have jobs, we have things to wake up for early in the morning. So calling someone at 10 p.m. isn't going to make sense. But at the end of the day, I feel so guilty about that. And I think that guilt transfers over into what I think I deserve from a community. How could I deserve a community if I can't consistently interact with my community and communicate with them? I think that part's really challenging for me sometimes. But all this to come back to authenticity and being in alignment. I think something that's really important is something I need to get back into as a regular practice. I do meditate. I enjoy yoga. I enjoy taking care of my body. It be that the things that I put into my body or the way that I move my body and appreciate my body on a regular. But I just don't think I've been consistent with doing that lately. So my body is for example, right now it's sick. Body's responding to that, right? So I think that's a goal of mine right now is to move more into a space where I'm in alignment with what authenticity looks like to me, with what supports my mental, physical, and spiritual health. And I think that looks different for everybody. Some people enjoy running. I'm not a girl who enjoys running. So running would not might support my physical health, but mentally I think that would drain me because I don't enjoy running. But if you enjoy running, I think that's something that you could add on to your list of okay, this can support my physical health. Some people enjoy doing cold plunges because it helps to balance and connect them with their physical and mental and spiritual body. And I think that if that works for you, I love that. If you like it, I love it. I think an important theme is just living with intention and mindfulness. And once you do that, I think you really just step into your authentic self. I know that at first, mindfulness is a practice, right? It's something that you do intentionally because you have to step into that, right? You have to learn how to do it essentially. But once you know how to do it, it becomes a routine. It's not so much a practice as it is a part of your routine, right? It's just something you wake up and do. It's something as simple as breathing, right? Your body knows that it has to inhale and exhale. Your heart knows it's got to beat. So mindfulness becomes a part of that, which ties into intentionality and being intentional with everything that you do, which can help to realign you and bring you back into focus. And I think that a lot of people who struggle with mental health, that's something that we all kind of struggle with, is that idea of being mindful and intentional, because we can slip into thinking traps. We can have those intrusive thoughts just take over and they become the pilot, and we just become so paralyzed by that. But I think it's having that self-awareness and that intentional focus to just reel it back in. Just reel it back in. It's not always as easy as that, but I think it's like taking those first steps towards it, and each time it becomes easier. Like, I know for myself, being diagnosed with BPD and like having gone through CBT, I think that was something that became so obvious to me, is that I have to put a lot of focus on being mindful and becoming the observer of my thoughts versus letting them consume me. And that's a really big mindfulness practice. And that's essentially what meditation is, right? A lot of people think that meditation is the absence of thoughts and the nothingness, but it's the observer and watching what comes in and just observing your mind and where it takes you and what that looks like. And then I think you get a better awareness of where you're at in that moment. And then you're more easily able to identify when something's coming in as an intrusive thought versus when something is coming in as genuine feeling that I'm having, or like my intuition. Because like we do get these like, I mean, I can speak for myself. I get some very intrusive, paranoid thoughts sometimes. And I don't think it's fair. From my standpoint, I try to be very mindful of that and not project that onto anyone else, because it's not their responsibility. It's my responsibility to be able to identify what's what. But I think having a solid community that understands you, if you can talk to them and say, like, hey, I'm having this intrusive thought, and they can maybe rationalize and be like, hey, that's really unlikely, which I'm really grateful for. I'm really grateful for my girlfriend, because she really does that for me. I'll be like, babe, I think that if I don't do this, this is going to happen. Or if I say this out loud, it's going to jinx it, or whatever the case might be. She's like, babe, that's not going to happen. It's going to be fine. Don't worry. So I think in those moments where it's really hard for us to rationalize that on our own, having somebody who's able to support us through that, guide us in the direction of giving our minds grace, but also having that outside view into our minds is really important. And that's why, like, community, I always get back to community and why that's so important. And I think just in general, dealing with BPD and living your truth, living your authentic truth, living in alignment with what your goals are, and being really real with yourself, and setting realistic goals and breaking them down into like smaller goals makes it so much easier for us. I know that that is something that a lot of people with BPD struggle with, is just authenticity and knowing who we are and just having that really solid sense of self. And we end up mirroring people like shit. I've mirrored way too many people in my life, and I think sometimes when I find myself interested in something, is this a genuine interest or something that I've picked up on because somebody else is interested in it and I admire them, or I look up to them, or whatever the case may be, and am I actually interested in this? Which gets easier with time. But I think the more you take time with yourself and understand yourself and just dive into who you are and what makes you happy, just literally sit there and like, what do I enjoy doing? Maybe it's writing, maybe it's reading, maybe it's going for walks and connecting with nature or spending time with family, but just really tapping into those things, even the smallest little thing. And I think like diving into those little things, that every time you experience something, like, oh, do I enjoy this? And like make it really black and white for yourself, because we do think in black and white, right? So it's like, do I enjoy this? Yes, I enjoy this. And do I enjoy this because somebody else does and they told me, or do I actually enjoy this? And I think the more you do things that you enjoy, the easier it is to step into your authentic self and to be in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing, what your soul's purpose is, what the universe is like conspiring for you to experience, right? And if you need a reminder that the universe is conspiring in your favor, this is it. You just got to be in alignment. You just got to be doing the things that fill your cup, that fill your soul's cup, because I think we often lose sight of that, especially when there's monetary gains attached to it or attention. I think things should just be so much more simple. I feel like I'm supposed to frolic in fields, but I'm also allergic to grass. So that one's kind of hard. But I think the more that I get to slow down and move through the motions and observe as I'm moving through the motions of life, the easier it gets. That's not to say there's not challenging moments, because there are, but it does get easier. So if you resonate with anything that I just said on my little yap, because a girl like me is a yapper, please subscribe, comment below. What are some practices that you do that help you to be in alignment with your true self?